Indeed, that report, special report, the CBC audit, forms the basis of the conversation this morning with my guest who is already in studio, and it is Andiwo Abondo, an education expert. And as I had earlier promised you, we are auditing the competence-based curriculum CBC. Thank you so much, Andiwo, for making time for us on this center.
Karibu sana.
Great. Now, you are a parent. I reckon that you have children going through this CBC competence-based curriculum. From a personal perspective, talk to us about your experience so far.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think what I can say is that as I've heard the peers talk about it there and other experts, CBC, as we know it, is a well-designed program. In terms of its content, because it focuses on building skills instead of just focusing on grades. It also focuses on flexible delivery of a curriculum that is actually context-specific in terms of where the learning is happening. And it also, I think, builds that connection between the parent, the learner, and the teacher. And I think that other issue that at least we applaud CBC for is possibility of pathways, giving learners opportunities to be able to explore different options based on talent, based on skills, or based on different abilities. But I think issues have emerged from the audit that you've done that needs to be talked about. And I'll talk about them as a parent, but also as an expert in this sector. One is...
And we'll get to those issues, Andiwo. And some of those things include the teething problems. I mean, the feedback, we asked our viewers to send in their feedback, and it is variant. There are those who are in support, there are those who are criticizing this. And I'll begin with as a parent, from a parent perspective, even before you go to the education expert perspective. To parents, number one, this was quite something new, and it involved, one, finances, two, their time. So how are they supposed to adjust and ensure that they actually conform to the CBC?
I think I'll start with the issue of time. I think CBC, the beauty of CBC is that now it actually drives parents to create time for their children. And I think, to me, I like it that way, because before, we were not actually interacting with our children. When you send children to school, you would be waiting for their report at the end of the term. But now CBC gives you an opportunity to interact with the children on a daily basis, and also support where you can. I think it focuses on parental engagement, and also empowers the parent to monitor what is going on in the school and what is going on with learning. It also helps the parents to know what the teachers, what support teachers need to be able to deliver the curriculum. I think why I see some parents are still complaining is because this is a paradigm shift. Most parents were not used to creating the kind of time they are expected to create to support their children. But I would want to urge Kenyan parents that CBC provides the best opportunity for you to engage and interact with your child, and also to support learning. Because learning does not just happen in school. Learning is a continuum between what goes on in school, what goes on at home, and how the two institutions or the two platforms interact to support the learner. The other thing that at least is coming up is about the cost of CBC. As a parent, I think I've also experienced this. There are cases where we've had, I've actually a boy in CBC 4, or grade 4. Sometimes he comes home asking for printouts. And when I don't have a printer at home, or the printer is not working, then it becomes an issue. But, and I think this is, to me, this is a bit peculiar to a particular context. Because I don't hear this happening in rural schools.
Exactly.
I don't hear a lot of this happening in public rural schools. And I think what happens is we call it in curriculum process, curriculum adaptation, where teachers use the creativity to be able to deliver a particular component of the curriculum. If, for instance, I don't think printing a particular item, like I think an example that a parent gave there, that sometimes they are expected to paint, either paint a chair or paint a table. I don't think they would learn much more by printing and painting. They may learn much more by drawing the table itself and then following up with the painting. So I think the issue here, to me, would be, it's a good design, But in terms of reorientation of our teachers, retooling of our teachers, have we retooled these teachers properly? Have we refreshed the teachers properly so that they are able to understand the concept? Because a design can be a curriculum design can be good, but those who are expected to deliver it may not understand the same concepts that the reformers or the designers may have had. Number two, it is also about the expectation was, and I think I'm now looking at this as an expert and also as a parent, that CBC will come with reduction in costs. But at least what we are seeing now, it seems to be having much more than we expected. Because if we are looking at focusing on the key learning areas that we ought to have reduced by now, parents are now saying they're spending more, then we need to revisit that component of why.
And I'd like us to take feedback from Twitter. I can see at the poll saying it is a learning, or rather, it is a learning process that is inquiry-based. So let's premise it on insisting on, let's premise it on instilling the core competencies in areas of learner interest and tweak with the assessment process. We will be good. Otherwise, I'm excited at the prospects that lie ahead. He makes a point because it is premised on instilling the core competencies. When you talk about the core competencies, this is something that was not experienced in the 844 system. Let's talk about these core competencies, because apart from time, our parents were actually saying that their children, even before they go to PP1 or even grade 1, they are able to read a newspaper or even the idents or the IDs on television. They are able to do that way early. These core competencies, did we implement them? Are we implementing them in the correct way?
Yeah, I think we are doing them in the correct way. And if you look at the way CBC has been staggered, the phased out delivery of the program allows the core competencies to be developed over time. For instance, we are looking at competencies at an early age where you would want to support the character building of a learner. You would want to support the behavior change in learners. You would want to instill certain values. I think that is where Kenya lost it all in our previous system, that we were never talking about values. We were never talking about skills, ability to be able to practically do something with self, either using your hands, or maybe using your creativity or your mind. So I think that those are some of the key competencies that we are talking about. Skills, we talk about values, and we talk about also behavior and character building, so that when a child grows, we are able to support the child to become somebody whole, and also to become somebody who can be able to do certain things for themselves. I think before, where the challenge was, is that we were focusing, this is in addition to reading and arithmetic skills. Before, we were focusing largely on being able to read, being able to write, and maybe being able to pass an exam, not demonstrate a skill. And I think that is where we want to underscore. CBC underscores demonstration of knowledge that you've acquired, demonstration of skills that you are developing. And that is where you see a lot of practice or a lot of context-based learning, either through community service or through curriculum activities within and outside the classroom.
And there is a school of thought that believes that this perhaps would start at a later age. What about the age of 9? Because we are starting this way early into the children. Do you think, or don't you think this would perhaps work from an age of 9? Because I'm seeing that question coming in, those saying that it started too early, like where you involve the children starting too early, perhaps the age of 9, where you've already identified perhaps the strengths and the weaknesses of your child?
I think what happens, if you look at the focus of PP1 and PP2, it is actually learning through play. A lot of learning happens through play, and then it is guided play. And then they also focus on understanding their environment. They also taught how to understand themselves. Self-awareness is very critical at that stage. And then they also taught how to maintain basic hygiene, and also how to be able to relate and interact with the community and the people around them. So I think that to me is very critical, because you can't wait until a child is after 10, to be able to teach them how to interact with the environment, how to manage their hygiene, how to interact with the people around them, how to be self-aware, and also how to understand the basics of learning, being able to read and being able to do simple arithmetic. So I think the way CBC is designed, the design to me is very perfect.
Yeah,
the only maybe challenge we may be seeing is how we are preparing the teachers to be able to understand the same concepts and deliver that in practice.
And you've mentioned teacher, and I mean teachers, and let's get to that point, because I see a question here. He doesn't say, they don't say their name, but they say 2 points. On the cost of CBC choices, choices have consequences, and private schools are going overboard. Yes. Education experts should stop and have a keen close at how IGCSE is implemented. There are many schools in Kenya, and they can and should visit. This is actually Mrs. Jackie Kasuku from St. Mary's School, Nairobi. What do you think on the cost of CBC? Because the private schools, it is a concern that actually private schools are going overboard.
I think I agree with Jackie, because if you follow keenly, the kind of lamentations and concerns that are being raised by parents are largely, by and large, from private schools. And I think it indicates that maybe the private schools are going overboard. They may not be actually living within their means. Because I don't hear a lot of, I happen to have children in both public and private, and I think I see the difference that private schools, they are asking for much more textbooks, teaching and learning resources, I think much more probably than the extras. They are still in, I think most of the private schools, so most of our schools are still in the former system. They are still in the old mode, where they thought that the more the books, maybe the more learning happens, or where they were preparing children for exams. But now we have moved to a stage where we are not preparing children for exams, but we are developing their skills and preparing them for life, preparing them for the world around them, and preparing them for the future. So I think what we need to be able to look at, and maybe I would challenge the PS, Professor Chege, to see how they can be able to, instead of just saying parents made choices about consequences, in terms of policy oversight, the ministry has a responsibility to be able to check if the private schools are asking much more than CBC demands, then I think they need to be moderated. And that is where ministry and governments come in. Yes.
I see another question because, our conversation today is based, of course, on the feedback we are receiving from our parents, because we did ask them to write in and give us their feedback. There is a question here, especially for matters grade 4, and it is on sexual reproduction. I see someone saying that actually their grade 4 child was asked to discuss sexual reproduction matters, sexual reproduction and that whole topic with their parents. This is quite something new that parents actually didn't expect and didn't handle, because previously it was handled at an advanced stage, or sometimes even these things would not be talked about. Then this creates quite a rift, and parents are they don't know how to approach it. Is this what you're saying, that it is creating the bond between the parent and the child, but trying to gel in all that, because you're talking about a topic that we sort of speak in hushed tones?
Yeah, I think I would say this about this topic, that we've been hiding our head in the sand for far too long. These are topics that we've been avoiding to discuss. And as you avoid to discuss them with your children, somebody else probably will be answering their questions out there. And that's why you see at grade 4, 5, we have, if you look at the cases of in Kilifi, in Homa Bay, in a number of counties like Kakamega, we've had serious upsurge of early pregnancies as young as grade 4, as young as grade 5. I think because of lack of sensitization and lack of proper information on reproductive health for these learners. So I think parents must come out and help the teachers to discuss these topics. There's a way in which teachers, the curriculum guides them on how they can be able to handle this. And parents are also expected to open up and talk to the children about these sensitive issues. Because you realize the way children interact with the media nowadays, either at home through the phones, on television, on radio, they get much more information, and some of them are very toxic and confusing, that if we don't clarify and give them the right information as parents, then we will not be helping these children. So I think it could be creating a lot of tension, because this is something that parents, Kenyan parents have not been doing. They are not used to this. But I think I would want to urge them to be able to roll their sleeves, create ample time with their children, and try to address these issues. Let us not hide or bury our head in the sand anymore. Let us help teachers discuss sensitive issues that learners want to know about. One of them is about sex orientation and also reproductive health. Yes.
There is the tweet we are receiving from, because of course we did get ask our viewers writing. At Mzewa Kijiji says CBC is more practical than 844. It looks like a watered down 844 in terms of content. It's boring and has too much work, but I think it solves a trillion shillings gap from text to real world. Of course, this is a conversation that we are having right here with my guest in studio. Keep your comments and feedback coming in. David Ludogoli says CBC should be abolished. So taxing, and even the Mandarins don't know how it should be implemented. Why are they doing gymnastics with the lives of our children? That is a tweet coming in from David. Another tweet is that hashtag CBC is more of parent learning than a child. This is, our feedback we are receiving from the question we asked our viewers to write in and tell us, rather talk to us about their feedback. That conversation continues with my guest. Please keep the feedback coming in. We will channel them all to